Hello, Dr. Bill. Akpinar is our guest today, and my name is Phil Wilson. I've been marketing the Relax Sauna since 2002, and Dr. Bill was gifted a Relax Sauna by his partner, who bought 10 Relax Saunas from us a few years later, and he was totally impressed with the Relax Sauna and has joined forces with us and has allowed us to use many of his quotes, because when he experienced the Relax Sauna, he felt it was so different and so unique. And so we want to talk to Dr. Bill Akpinar, who wrote the book. It's a classic, No Sweat, No Sweat. And if you correct me if I'm wrong, once you no sweat and understand it as your teacher and your healer, life is no sweat. And I hope that's what he meant by it. That's what I figured he meant. And he'll explain and elaborate how in the world he got this title and how he was led to the Relax Sauna and how he discovered it was special. So anyway, Dr. Bill, take it away. It's great to see you again.
Well put.
Yes.
Likewise. It's great. This is an amazing coincidence because I came here to Dr. Brimhall's symposium January 2022 to do a lecture, and I see our brother Phil here with the saunas, and I said to my brother Dr. James, I said, look at this. I said, he's here. We've been talking about getting together so long. So I said, look, we're suited up, so let's sit down and let's give a little dissertation on why the saunas are so good. Now, yes, it's absolutely true. The no sweat concept is kind of funny, but it's so true because so many people tell us, well, I sweat naturally, you know? Well, you're sweating because your body is so toxic and it's trying to get rid of something that you're not inducing artificially, i.e. with a sauna. So they're carrying around this garbage and their clothing is full of sweat and they're walking around drenched a lot of the time. Now, when you sweat regularly, you're producing a state of no sweat because there's no more sweat left because you've gotten the toxic sweat out of your body. So this is one of the concepts. It's kind of funny, but there is a lot of truth to that. And it's interesting that when I ask a lot of my patients who come in for various challenges, you know, how often do they do sauna or sweat? I'm surprised to find out that a lot of them say, oh, I sweat normally, I sweat a lot, but I don't use the sauna. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe that such a big part of the world still doesn't utilize sweat therapy. Because if you look at ancient cultures, Ottoman Empire, it was called the secret doctor. In Russia, it's called the banya. In Finland, in Sweden, in the Scandinavian countries, they construct the sauna first, then they build a house around it.
That's the way it needs to be.
This is the way it should be, and it's such an important component of health, yet people do not utilize it. And that's what compelled me to write this book.
I was wondering, you know, how like you traveled all over the world.
Yeah.
There's pictures of you with American Indian, whatever you call them.
The sweat lodges, that's another one.
And then the Amazon sweat lodges, those were scary pictures.
Oh. Yeah, got lost in the Amazon at one point for a few hours. Had a little trouble finding me, and they said, "Listen, you're lucky because there's still cannibalism around." I said, "You guys," but it really is. It's been an amazing journey. I've been to over 70, maybe 75 countries. Did a lot of lecturing, interfaced with a lot of doctors, and saw this therapy being utilized in so many different cultures, and yet in the Western world it still hasn't caught up, other than maybe people doing hot yoga. You know, they're doing it inadvertently without the intention of doing sweat therapy. They're getting sweat, but
it's more than just sweat. It's because, you know, a regular Finnish sauna, as great as they are, from what I understand, only about 2% of the sweat is actually toxins. And in a far infrared sauna, especially relaxed sauna, there's as much as 17, 18, 19% of what comes out is actually toxins and metabolic waste.
correct.
Now, how does one explain that to the American people and the world in general? And you know, like Hippocrates, you're the one that introduced me to the quote. find me a way to create sweat or fever, and I will cure disease. Of course, we're not allowed to cure anything in the world but beef now. But basically for the body to cure itself, for the body to heal itself, and for Hippocrates to stand over it, the incredible hyperthermia, increasing body temperature, and I have found personally that I have not found another sauna that can increase body temperature as much as the Relax Sauna, and we believe that's because we give you the loving light, which is the far infrared between 4 and 14. We give you 95% pure, and the other saunas maybe give you 20 to 40, 50% pure of the active ingredient.
It's true. I mean, seriously, the ancients had it right, and I don't know when the word cure, as you said, was surgically removed from the vocabulary of medicine, just as the certain groups own, well, they don't own, they profess to own the word physician. Physician comes from ancient scripture, from time of Maimonides, Hippocrates, Ibn Sina. These were all physicians, and it literally means healer. And back in the old days, they were using hyperthermia therapy in the Asclepios, in the gymnasia, in the Greek healing temples. This was an integral part of the healing protocol. And it's sad to see that it's diminished, but now with with your technology here, thank God, it's making a revival and people are catching on. But I got into this because I'm into martial arts and all sorts of physical activity, and just sweating felt so good.
Yeah.
And sweating is so good for you.
Yeah.
And as you said, the frequency differential between such a sauna and just sitting in steam or something else is pretty vast. Look, any sweat is great. Any sweat, you get no sweat, it's great. You sweat it out. So any type of sweat is going to benefit you for various reasons. But when you use a particular device that resonates at a certain frequency, especially this one, which works at the frequency of a Qigong master, and I've written a book on Qigong, and I have a video on Qigong, the vibrational frequency, the resonance, is much more compatible with health. It's a Schumann resonance. And I know this has been developed by an individual who has a strong root in Qigong. Okay, so this is very important. And the nanotechnology composition of the heating elements allows so much more of this to penetrate the body. We do know that the water, I believe the bond angle is something like 104.3. The greater the angle, the better it is for health, the more the dissipation of the toxins that are released. And if you vibrate, if you can get into the body on a deeper level, especially like with this, 1.5 to 2 inches, you're vibrating those water molecules and breaking apart the interface between the organic and the inorganic poisonous compounds that come into the body. So you're releasing them. Now, furthermore, you look at fat. A lot of people cannot lose weight, and they put on a lot of fat. And that's not necessarily from binging. It's just that we've become so toxic, and fat tissue is a repository. It's a cemetery for the toxins that the body does not want to allow to go to. It shunts it away from the brain, the heart, the kidneys, the liver. So what happens? It's shunting into fat tissue. Fat tissue is it's not complex tissue, but it's like a graveyard of all the toxins. So fat tissue increases, and when you do sauna, fat tissue, we know, liquefies at 110 degrees. You're immediately getting rid of toxins, and you're breaking down fat tissue.
Now the body temperature doesn't get much more than 103, 104, because I think if the body gets over 106, you die. But the outside temperature, so how do you get to 110 degrees?
Yeah, this is now if you look at the hypothalamus, which also governs sleep. Hypothalamus governs body temperature and sleep, a few other functions. why when you sweat and you're doing nice that you sleep better. That's
Oh yeah,
one of the
everyone.
one of the reasons
Oh my
you sleep
gosh,
better.
yes.
The hypothalamus is the temperature regulatory center of the body. So there are two mechanisms. One is vascular and one is neurogenic, neurological. And if one fails, there's a fail-safe system, the other one takes over. So, as you said, the body does not like to heat above and beyond a certain point. 101, 102, it says, no mas, it's enough. 103, we're getting into the danger zone. You get to 104, 105, you're getting into seizure territory, especially with children because their temperatures can go up so fast. Now, what happens is the body, we intuitively, nature has created our body in such a way that we want to maintain the temperature at a certain balance, 100, 101, 102. So by artificially inducing sweat, by increasing the heat, the sweat glands open up and you're getting rid of sweat. And that is a cooling mechanism to allow the body to maintain itself at a certain temperature. Now, does the outside get heated above and beyond? Absolutely. That temperature inside the sauna, what is it? We're talking about 130, 150. So your periphery can very easily be hit with 120, 130, 140 degrees. And there are circulating toxins, cancer cells, all sorts of cells inside the body that are going through the peripheral circulation that get hit with this high temperature. We do know that about 105, 106 degrees, viruses start dying off and cancer cells start dying off. So why would anyone not want to use this prophylactically as a preventative measure, as a measure to stay healthy? You know that this is something that, and the education hasn't been provided. Well, until this is what compelled me to write this book, and it really was an act of love because so many people have come to me and they use this in so many different spas all over the world and universities. They said, "Thank you, this has changed our life," and you know, it's a matter of educating people. Now, in many cultures, like in Swedish cultures, people sweat together. It's a communal activity. You know, it's a social activity. People are born inside saunas. They do ceremonies to honor the dead. People take their children in saunas. Okay? And it's just such a beautiful event. Like a family that sweats together essentially stays together. So a lot of people will do this as a family activity. I mean, they may do it once or twice a week. We do it every day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Every day. And the other beautiful thing about this is that as we do this, we're producing what we call heat shock proteins. These are the chaperone proteins that are produced in the presence of extreme heat or cold. So hypothermia and hyperthermia especially, we produce these chaperone proteins. If you look at the protein structure, a lot of them, they start out linear. Then you see these 3D shapes. They're beautiful, like these electron microscopy depictions of these proteins. They assume these amazing configurations. Now, sometimes something gets in the chain, the protein gets denatured, it gets corrupted, it becomes unfolded, and disease starts manifesting. It's like the DNA. It's like the loops of the DNA. When the DNA starts to become destabilized, when the loops are reproducing, and they're reproducing erratically, you start getting more and more erratic disease loops of DNA. Same thing with the proteins. Well, the DNA, RNA, DNA have an influence over the division of the protein. So, in order to reconfigure these proteins, these heat shock proteins come to the rescue. And what are they? HSPs, 40, 60, 70, 90, and 100, depending on the size. These heat shock proteins are essentially reconfiguration proteins. It's like folding towels. They go into a house with a lot of dirty towels, and they refold them, and they make the protein structure normal again. Now, being familiar with ozone therapy, being experienced and having taught ozone, light therapy, and other therapies, it's great. They help kill viruses, bacteria, fungus, cancer cells. This is a known fact already. no matter who denies the fact that it would be erroneous because there's enough documented proof that oxygen therapies and light therapies get rid of all these elements. But there's one thing that these therapies do not address, and that's prions or prions. Now, they are the smallest particle of disease, the smaller the virus. You got fungus, bacteria, virus, and prion. Prions, once they enter the body in the protein chain, they start breaking down the proteins, unfolding them. And what are some examples of prion or prion disease? Jacobs-Kerfeld, Kuru, mad cow disease. You can't address these with the other therapies, but the only way you can address these effectively is with heat shock proteins. And the way you're this is from like cows being fed cow meat, chickens being fed chicken meat. The way to get rid of them is by creating these, and the way to do that is by utilizing some form of therapy. And far infrared or infrared sauna therapy, at the frequencies at which it works, is probably one of the most effective means of doing so.
The heat shock protein that you talk about has always been sort of like confusing to me. It's like as a lover of saunas since I was 16, and then discovering that I could have a fire infrared sauna in my home. Oh my God! And then a year later, discovering the Relax Sauna was so much more effective. Why is the Relax Sauna? What is in it that allows it to do more than another sauna? Like, for example, when you buy a vitamin C supplement or zinc or B complex, people look at, well, when they shop, people are pretty smart. Well, how much vitamin C is in it? When people buy saunas, they never think of saying, well, how much of the active ingredient of the loving light that resonates with the water molecule, how much is in your sauna, and how much is in the other sauna? And people talk about the bells and the whistles, but I want to talk about the active ingredient of what is in the Relax Sauna. And of course, I know that their technology took 10 years to develop to do what they do, but why does what we developed to create a hot spa, in Japan, the hot springs energy, as they were asked to do, and they created this hot springs energy. What is in the Relax Sauna, or why does it work better than the other?
Phil, it's really a matter of frequency. It's the frequencies that are utilized. As I said before, any type of sweat therapy, any type of heat is going to benefit the body. There are technologies that are essentially more beneficial than others. So if you have a frequency emanating from the heaters that are compatible with that of the frequency of DNA and life on Earth, namely the Schumann resonance, you're going to get a much better result. And if you really look at disease starts with the disruption of frequency balances in the body. So like, you look at the body, this is dense matter, okay, resonating at a lower frequency. Within the frequencies, you have different what we call chakras and energy centers, like the reproductive is about 33 hertz, and you get the heart about 66. And the brain can go up to God knows whatever, or it can be slowed down to a low point, depending on the alpha, beta, theta, gamma, all the different waves. So the frequencies have a lot to do with it. The next layer is, of course, the etheric. Then you have the astral body. You have the mental and the causal.